Things are not looking good for Hollywood. I have a new report from an insider, a former actor, claiming that Hollywood is in shambles. And to quote him, quote, things are terrible. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com earlier this week. And this alleged former actor who worked in Hollywood sent an email to novelist Brian Niemeyer, who published parts of it on his website. And this is what the actor said. Former actor here got a few friends in the industry, and they've been told explicitly that things are terrible. Hollywood is in shambles is a direct quote from my friend's manager. Big clients, very connected. My friend had a co-star role on a major network television show that was canceled over a year ago, and he's yet to book another gig. His wife, a lot of big television credits, has been faring much better, so they've been fine, but overall, it's not good. The actor then explained one of the major problems the industry faces is contraction, and that is forcing bigger named actors to compete for smaller roles. This is what this insider said. Part of the problem is he's now competing on small parts with bigger name actors who normally would never audition for these roles, as they'd be considered a step down, can regress your career. He pointed to Michael Emerson's role as Wilzig in Fallout. If you're unfamiliar with Michael Emerson, he's the main bad guy in the Saw franchise. This is what the insider said, though. So now he's constantly losing out to actors with bigger resumes. Now, even more important to draw in viewers. Case in point, Michael Emerson had a small part in Fallout. I'm told I read your book and took your advice. That advice is don't give money to people who hate you. It's also one of Niemeyer's books. The insider goes on and says, when it's a role that really should be going to a much lesser known actor and is below Emerson's level, who's a bona fide television star at this stage in his career. From there, the insider pointed to a report from Nelly Andreeva at Deadline that noted that talent agency KMR suspended its franchise with SAG-AFTRA because of delays in payments to its clients. This is what she reported just at the end of March. The KMR talent agency, which has been grappling with talent payment breakdown, has suspended its franchise with SAG-AFTRA. This report came after Deadline noted agency clients had been waiting for months to get their payments. She added this, over the past week, we learned more of KMR checks that have bounced, though at least one person saw their latest checks clear. This is what the insider told Niemeyer. KMR is not one of the big guns, but it's a well-known mid-level agency that's been around for almost 70 years with well over 1,000 clients. And when this happened, my friend began to panic and asked his manager if he should switch agencies. He's at a big one. And she once again reaffirmed the crisis by shooting that down immediately, telling him the last thing any actor should be doing right now is firing their agent. From there, the insider pointed to the declining number of pilots being created for the major television networks and cited an article from Leslie Goldberg at The Hollywood Reporter from the middle of March 2022. So about 2 years ago. And this is what Goldberg reported at the time. This season, the 5 broadcasters have so far ordered only 35 pilots combined. That's the lowest tally in at least a decade and down significantly from the pre-pandemic days when 60 was considered a record low. While sources say a handful of additional orders may still be to come, this year's 35 comedies and dramas are still down from last year's sum, which included 20 pilots that were carried over from 2020 when the global production shutdown wiped out pilot season. This is what the insider said. And he told me this year the number of pilots is somewhere around 8 total. So it's declined even further, according to the insider. So this information about work contracting, less movies, less television shows, etc., appears to confirm screenwriter and YouTuber Script Doctor's predictions at the end of September that the new Writers Guild of America deal signed with the studios would result in less work. This is what he said during an appearance on Midnight's Edge in the morning show. He was asked by host Andre Einherjar, will there be less jobs for writers now when you have guaranteed writer's room? And this is, as part of his response, is what Script Doctor said. So basically, what we are seeing here from the youngins is there's going to be possibly less opportunities for them, especially in something like the pre-greenlit or mini rooms. And that comes down to two factors that I can think of right now. The first one is that the current NBA clearly defines that a showrunner has to be a union writer. So it can't be an internal executive producer like a Kevin Feige. It also gives them a bit more power in who they select for the writing positions in the minimum staffing mini rooms. And it also says that whoever they select has to be approved by the company, or the showrunner has to argue for them to be involved. Now, with regards to those rooms, you have showrunners that would only, a real showrunner, a good showrunner, is only going to hire writers that they are going to get value out of their room, which means that if you are a diversity hire, and that's all you've got going on, you are of no value to a showrunner, which means you are not going to get your guaranteed hire over there. And I think that's a good thing. Moving on to his second point, he said this: the other aspect with regards to the contract pertaining to mini rooms is that the compelled hiring has now increased. The compelled hiring and the extended time frame for which they have to work on the show, which is like the minimum of 10 weeks. That essentially turns the mini room into something more expensive than the traditional model of developing a pilot, producing the pilot to be screened before an audience test to see whether or not it's actually going to be good, and then giving it the green light to go into an actual series order. The mini room basically tries to force a hit show within a 6-episode or 8-episode or 10-episode structure, get it all written before any of it is filmed, and then push it out there. We've seen that kind of with Ahsoka, and he actually uses that as an example. He says you can take a look at a pilot like Ahsoka and say to yourself, okay, that's a show that was done in a mini room. It was done by one writer, Dave Filoni. And if you put that through the pilot test, there's no way it would have been picked up for the remainder of the episodes. And that's a good thing. You don't want that. So right now, it looks like mini rooms are kind of being, for the moment, they'll be kind of priced out in a budget side of things from the studios because it's more lucrative and less risk for them to actually go back to shooting a pilot, testing it, and then determining whether it's going to be given a series order, as opposed to building a show in a limited amount of time and then just pumping it out for you to be stuck with it and can't control, develop, or change it based on audience reception. And I think we are seeing that kind of with Marvel Studios. They announced this stuff with Daredevil Born Again back in like October. They're completely restructuring their television division. We're also seeing contraction there. Bob Iger actually said Bob Iger said that just this morning. I'm recording this on Tuesday morning, so they just had their earnings call on May 7th, and he just said that they were going to contract their television shows from 4 to 2. And that is kind of what they were doing. They did 5, I think, in 2021. 3 or 4, I think, in 2022, and 3 last year. And then obviously they have Echo that came out at the beginning of this year. Obviously, it should have come out last year, but they pushed it to the beginning. I think it was like January or February. I can't remember. But it came out this year. And I guess we're supposed to get like a bunch this year too. Ironheart, Agatha, who knows what else. All shows that are going to just die on the vine. But we are seeing them kind of contract how many shows that they are producing. Already, we're seeing that already. And then script doctors declare this. And when you have those types of orders, and you have the showrunner being in charge of it and picking the writers they want to work with and being able to argue why they need it for the benefit of the show, you then basically exclude any of the writers in town that are going to be of value to you. And I think everybody listening and gentlemen on the panel know those types of writers are not going to be lasting in this industry because they're not qualified. And I think that's great. I think that's great that there's less jobs for them, because that gives me a better chance for having more job opportunities. So that is what he kind of predicted, that there would be this kind of contraction. He talked about why that would happen. We're now seeing this former actor telling Brian Niemeyer, informing him that contraction is indeed happening. It's affecting acting roles. You're seeing bigger name people taking on kind of smaller bit roles in these kind of bigger productions, these TV shows. Obviously, he uses Michael Emerson as an example in Fallout. And I just want to point out that we also have this here from Variety that kind of just shows how terrible it is. They're talking about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes box office for this upcoming weekend. But I found this really interesting. This says overall, the domestic box office is down roughly 20% from 2023 and 40% from 2019. Before the COVID pandemic. Yes, jobs are drying up. Actors are having to be more competitive. We think that writers are probably having to be more competitive because jobs are drying up. We're seeing box office grosses absolutely plummeting, down 20% just from last year. 40% from 2019. It's not looking good at the box office. We'll see if there's any like big surges later this year. I mean, obviously, Deadpool and Wolverine is probably the biggest one. She points out Despicable Me 4. And then this is Rebecca Rubin at Variety. And then she also points out Inside Out 2. I'm not sure. I think people are kind of over Disney animation stuff. They just don't trust it anymore with their kids. I think the Despicable Me 4 is probably a safer bet. And then I think we'll see what happens with Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that's going to be a pretty big test. I think it might do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 levels, but I don't expect it to do even Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness levels. I just don't see that being the case, but maybe it'll surprise me. But things are not going well. And we have lots of evidence to show that in Hollywood. And I think they've done it to themselves. They've injected all of this ideology. They've embraced all of these ideological initiatives at all these companies, Amazon, Disney. They all have these woke DEI policies. They push all of that stuff in how they craft the show. There's messages injected in the shows, and people see that as what it is. It is evil, and they're rejecting it because the truth is carved in our hearts. It's carved on our souls, and we want to find that. We want to seek that out. We want to find the things that do lead us to the truth. I think Tolkien talks about this in his essay on fairy stories. One of the things that fairy stories provide is consolation. And what these people are creating with their woke ideology is the opposite of consolation. And we're seeing a rejection of it. And so, my opinion, it's good that they are struggling. We'll see if they learn any lessons from it. But I don't think that they will. We continue to see the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm doubling down over and over and over again. They just released transgender propaganda in their Star Wars Tales of the Empire story, or a limited series, I guess, on Disney Plus. Despite Bob Iger saying we don't have an agenda and we're not involved in the culture war, yet literally over and over and over again, that proves not to be true. So they continue to push this stuff, and we must continue to reject it. And they're going to pay the price for this. They're going to pay the price for this. And I think they're paying the price now, but they're probably going to pay the price later on as well, if you catch my drift. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable to each other, but to always speak the truth.